that time. When I was teaching 50 years ago in Docklands, we had a problem with a youngster, a boy. Mum and Dad used to turn up. Even though they may be separated, even though they may be going through all sorts of family problems, Mum and Dad always turned up to ensure that the youngsters improved and behaved well. You don't see that now.
So this isn't just a problem of divorce.
No.
This
is about dads not caring.
Okay. This is about dads leaving and not coming back.
And providing terrible role models to their young men who then go astray and join gangs.
Now, here's my issue with this, which is with your premise that this is largely a black community issue, this spurge in knife crime. In Glasgow, between 2010 and 2017, they had the highest rate of knife crime in Europe, almost predominantly white. How do you explain that?
This is not an ethnic issue. This is an issue about fathers across the ethnic spectrum not caring about their children. And it's really, I speak as a practitioner. When you have a problem with a youngster, it's always mum who turns up. And mums are fully stretched. They're having to go out to work to support their families. They're having to worry about what's happening to their children at home. And you never see dad. Now, that doesn't mean that, families are always going to be united, always together. But you need dads to turn up to care about their children, because if they don't, the message goes out, my dad doesn't care.
Okay, let's bring in Leroy. David Lammy, I remember revealing that of the 19 young offenders arrested in Tottenham after the 2011 riots, only 2 had active fathers. And he was making a very clear link there between feckless fathers and the rise of young black men in this country becoming criminal. Do you accept that there is a problem? Do you accept, notwithstanding that in Glasgow there were white people with knife problems, probably a similar problem, so it's not just exclusively a black issue in parts of London, for example? And how do we deal with this?
Well, I think we need to recognise that violence has moved on, and that lots of assumptions are made about why certain things happen. And that's why I'm involved in a Youth Violence Commission, really doing some definitive data analysis and Safer Life survey, looking at why violence happens now. And parenting is very important. In fact, we've got young people who's hosting an event at City Hall today, the peer outreach team. And what we do is to make sure that young people are at the centre, so we know exactly why they can pick up a knife or a gun.
And what do they say?
They are saying that in a lot of ways is peer pressure and fear. It's part of...
It's gang culture, right?
But
isn't one of the reasons that so many young kids go into gangs, and let's spell out the reality of the knife crime epidemic in London in particular, at the moment, is largely driven by young black youth. Nobody's disputing that, right? You wouldn't dispute that?
Yeah, because a lot of the areas where crime is infested is where black communities have been ghettoised a lot.
Right, so if we accept that as an agreed fact, I'm trying to work out where we get to points of agreement here. There is clearly an issue there. Do you think that any of that is down to feckless fathers?
I think fathers, to some extent, but I also think it's a lot of the safeguarding agencies that have been run into the ground, austerity, and then you've got these people who are grooming young people on such a major scale, because the social media is an accelerant to this whole virus violence.
Nothing to do with austerity. 50 years ago, the youngsters I taught in Bermondsey, in Docklands, sons and daughters of Dock, were incredibly poor, much poorer than
I'm talking about
today.
austerity.
This is about caring for your children. And fathers in these communities.
I think you may have misunderstood what you said. You were talking about.
I'm talking about safeguarding agencies.
You mean agencies? You're talking about money being put into agencies to deal with.
Yeah.
I think the people.
Before there used to be a lot more intervention and prevention programs. Now it's just firefighting.
Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. Money is going into these agencies. It's about time the police took control of what's happening on the streets of London.
And how should they do that?
For goodness sake, if you talk to the dozen or so secondary head teachers in Hackney, they would be able to tell you who the gang... They would be able to tell you who the gang leaders were.
Yeah,
those gang leaders are still on the streets. They should not be on the streets.
No.
The police should do something about it.
Can I just say, I used to be the superintendent in Hackney when you were head at Mossbourne in Hackney. And one of the major things that used to contribute to crime was exclusions. I used to have a major issue with the heads because they used to exclude and don't realise that youngster is 4 to 5 times more likely to
You will
involve
know
crime.
If you're excluded for bad behaviour, though, or
Yeah,
for
I'm
even
not-
perhaps carrying a weapon,
Yeah, I know.
but
I
you're
know,
saying
but-
that can then lead
but
to problems.
unfortunately,
What do
the
you do?
support
Well,
of
that's a
youngsters
nonsense.
in those
It's a
schools
nonsense. It's a
and
long and
college-
tortuous process to exclude children, and head
It's
teachers always use it as a last resort. If you look at Hackney, which you know well,
Yeah.
Hackney is now one of the best performing parts of London.
And why is that?
Academically.
Yes. Well-
It's because head teachers are working incredibly hard to raise standards.
Yes, I
to
agree,
ensure
but
that
that's
these
still not the
youngsters
case
get
across
How much,
the
let me
country.
ask you both, how much of the problem here is, you mentioned police, and I think this is a big part of this. There's been a dramatic reduction in community police officers
Absolutely.
in this country,
Yeah.
led actually by Theresa May when she was Home Secretary. How much is the lack of visibility of policemen on the streets of parts of London we're talking about a problem?
Absolutely. Safer neighbourhood teams that I helped roll out in Hackney, when you had 1 sergeant, 2 constables, 3 PCSOs, have been decimated. They used to be ring fenced per ward. Now they are clustering wards, and they're being called to do all sorts of other things. So that reassurance, those relationships,
in my
and
village,
that
look, in my
intervention
village,
and prevention process.
my village,
has stopped.
my village in Sussex couldn't be more removed from a Hackney council estate. So let's just put that out there to start with. However,